So if you can hear my voice, make your way back to your computer, get comfortable, get settled. If you can't hear my voice, and of course my instructions are irrelevant, so I won't to you. But while we wait for the clock to strike 1 Eastern, or the round hour wherever you are in the world, I'd love to hear, just drop into the chat, what was the most important takeaway for you from this morning's session? If you had to pick just one thing. And I will take a sip of my hot drink while you type. And I'm going to ask you at a few different points to kind of share your best takeaways. And we do this for a few reasons. One is that by reflecting on your best takeaways and writing it down, you notice it more, you internalize it more. So it helps with your retention. It also kind of flags for others, oh, this was a good point. That's right. I should remember it too. And of course, for me as the presenter, it's nice to see what is landing and what is resonating, and that matters as well. Awesome. So I like that I'm seeing a lot of different things, some themes definitely around prompt engineering, about the importance of your expertise, but also a lot of diversity and breadth in terms of what is landing and what is kind of most relevant and most impactful for all of you, which is great. We're just about ready to approach the top of the hour. I'm very glad to see that almost everyone who was with us earlier is already back. That is fantastic. And I'm kind of itching to go. I think I've got 30 seconds on my clock, but I think we're just going to do it. But do it into the chat if you're like, screw it, let's move forward, let's go. We are here, we are ready. And do it. All right, so let's do it. So welcome back. So far, we have covered a lot already. We talked about what is AI and ChatGPT. We talked about mindset for success. We talked about the right and wrong way to use AI. We talked about prompt engineering, and we talked about your prerequisites for success. And there's a lot more coming. Up next, we're going to talk about the truth regarding passive income, what realistic financial targets are for online courses powered by AI in 2023, the winning hybrid course idea formula, and a deeper look at prompt engineering, as well as how to price your hybrid course. So let's start by just talking about, we talked a lot about AI this morning and the need for hybrid courses in general. Let's go a little deeper into what sort of courses are we talking about? And that goes back to why we are talking about courses in the first place. I have literally worked with thousands of course creators across hundreds of industries and niches. There are only 3 reasons why people want to create online courses. They want leverage. That's the first reason. They want to make more money in less time. They want to have more resources at their disposal. It's the first reason. Second reason is freedom. They want to create freedom in their businesses and their lives. Freedom from worry and constraints and risk and uncertainty. Freedom to do what you want, when you want, how you want, with who you want. And all of that is in service of the third goal, which is impact, being able to change the world or change the world within your reach. And this is what it's ultimately all about, both in your life as a whole and also through your courses themselves. So we've got these 3 goals. Now, we've talked about how your course needs to be hybrid, meaning that you can mix and match all the different tools in the course creator's toolbox, like live instruction, pre-recorded audio, video, microlearning, gamification, cohorts, coaching, community, AI, etc. And we've talked about a few of the reasons why hybrid is absolutely the way to go. The potential for creating genuine impact and transformation, and also the clear differentiation from the sort of courses that ChatGPT can easily spit out. But there is another very important reason why hybrid is the way to go, which is that hybrid courses are premium courses. Premium as in not cheap, as in they cost an amount of money that would get you, the course creator, excited to be paid, and that would require a considered commitment on the part of your students. It's not just some impulse buy that they forget they even did. And this is incredibly important, both for you and for your students. So let's talk about why it's important for you. Then we'll talk about why it's important for your students. And to talk about why it's important for you, we need to go over some quick business math that starts with the retail price that you're going to charge for your course. And by the way, for those of you who joined the session just a few minutes late, did you notice that we're already well into the lesson content? We are going to start every session on time. So plan to be here. Now, when you look at your retail price, some brand new entrepreneurs have this fantasy that if they charge $100, 90 of those dollars will end up in their pocket. But, I see a lot of experience on the call. I think you all know that's not how it really works. Put the word fantasy into the chat if you're like, yeah, no, I get it. If I charge $100 gross, I'm not netting 90. That's just not how reality works. Okay, so you guys get it. Now, your retail price is going to split into roughly three, roughly even buckets. About a third is going to go towards customer acquisition. That's the money you spend on advertising, marketing, bringing in a new sale. Another third is going to go to fulfillment. That's what you can afford to spend on creating a great experience for them, whether it's coaching, whether it's sending them a package of stuff in the mail, whatever it is. And the third bucket is contribution profit. That's the money that goes to offset your overhead expenses. And if there's enough volume, it becomes actual profit in the bank. So the price splits into these three buckets. And by the way, AI does not change this math at all. This is just the basic math of any online course business. Now, here's why this math means that you need to be able to charge a premium. Because you need to be able to afford to acquire new customers. If you aren't charging enough to be able to afford to acquire new customers, you're going to be forever broke. So if you're charging a very small amount of money, and you divide that number by 3, and that is all you can afford to spend to acquire a customer, and it's not enough to get the job done, you don't have customers, and you're perpetually in this cycle of, I can't acquire customers, I don't have enough money, I don't have a working business. And sometimes when I explain this, people come back to me with a message of, well, I just want to give. I want to be of service. I want to make my expertise and support accessible to everyone. And that is a wonderful intention, but you don't accomplish it by charging too little. If you do that, all you accomplish is that you are perpetually unable to work on the stuff that you want to do. You can't do the work that is meaningful. You need to charge enough for your business to be profitable and sustainable. And then you can give back as much as you want. Now, that is the rule, but there are exceptions to that rule. And I want to go over those exceptions quickly, because if you're in that exceptional category, that's great. But if not, you need to know that. And the exceptions all come down to the idea of having some sort of unfair advantage that changes the math by making it possible for you to get lots of customers without being constrained by what you can afford to pay for them. So an example of an unfair advantage would be if you have early mover advantage on some kind of platform. So if you're one of the first people on Facebook or on Clubhouse or on TikTok, you get a disproportionate share of voice. But you have to catch the right wave, right? If it turns out to be not TikTok, but rather Periscope or Clubhouse, then it was all for nothing. And this doesn't apply to technologies, right? Being first with AI, not that any of us are first to AI at this point. We're already kind of past that point. But AI is a technology, not a platform. We're talking about platforms that allow you to reach customers. So early mover advantage is one example of an unfair advantage. Another would be prime placement. And so if you look at, for example, Udemy, which is a giant marketplace of online courses, and you look at the courses that are featured on the homepage, I mean, check out those numbers. Tens, hundreds of thousands of reviews. You can only imagine how many sales they're generating. It's a ton. But it's only a ton because they are featured on the front of the Udemy homepage. They get prime placement. That's why LinkedIn paid $1.5 billion to acquire lynda.com and turn it into LinkedIn Learning, because they knew that they could put all those courses in front of literally 400 million people, right? That's a huge unfair advantage. Another unfair advantage would be celebrity status, right? That's the Kylie Cosmetics strategy for growing a business. They went from 0 to $1 billion in 5 years with 12 employees and no marketing budget. But they did have Kylie Jenner's 150 million followers. Another great example of this is Michelle and Barack Obama's books, which collectively sold over 1.6 million copies on their first day in print. And they followed a very easy strategy for making that happen. Put the word strategy into the chat if you're like, yeah, I want to know, what's the strategy? How did they sell 1.6 million books on day one? So it's a very easy strategy. You guys can write this down. There are 2 steps. The first step is to spend 8 years in the White House. And then the second step is to publish a book, right? Very simple, very easy, but not accessible to most people. They have celebrity status. That makes things a lot easier. Another unfair advantage would be if you're buying in bulk. See, we all know from our regular offline lives that buying in bulk gets you a better price, right? If you go to Costco and you buy 400 rolls of toilet paper instead of one, you're going to pay less for every roll. Well, the same is true for ads. So if you are going online and buying ads, notice that the people who are bidding against you for those ads are people who, and they're not people, they're companies who are buying in bulk. So whereas you or I might spend hundreds or thousands or maybe tens of thousands of dollars per month on ads, we are bidding against companies like Udemy and Amazon that are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions, sometimes tens of millions of dollars every month on ads. And like any good marketer, any good seller, Google and Facebook, they look at these advertisers and say, well, you're spending so much money, I'll give you a better deal. That's great. And it's great if you are them, except that for the rest of us, it means that we can't compete. Another unfair advantage would be subsidized acquisition. That's where you don't actually have to be profitable on your sales because the money's coming from somewhere else. So if you're a company like Masterclass that has raised $100 million in venture capital, that's an unfair advantage. If you have an elaborate value ladder where I'm sure you've seen some of these, right? You know, you can buy the $7 thing, then there's the $97 thing, then the $100 thing, then the $1,000 thing, then the $10,000 thing, et cetera. Well, that subsidizes all the rest. Put value ladder into the chat if you've seen these ideas and you're like, yeah, sure, I totally get it, right? That makes it all make sense. And this is a good thing for you to build into your business eventually, right? In my business, we have a coaching program called ACES. It's a fantastic program. It costs $27,000. And it means that I can afford to lose money on the front end when I build relationships with people because some of them will join ACES and ACES helps to subsidize all of that stuff that happens in the front. And that's great. And can AI help you build out that value ladder faster? Yes, but you still have to go step by step and make sure they're all working. So these are all examples of unfair advantages. And they change the basic math of how much you can afford to spend to buy a customer, to acquire a customer. So the question is, does that sound like you? Do you have one or more of these unfair advantages working for you? Put the words yes or no into the chat if you do or if you don't have these unfair advantages. Okay, so I'm seeing a few people are saying yes. And if you do, that's great. Congratulations on having built that. And you're welcome to reach out to my team. We can help you make the most of those advantages. But most of you are saying, no, I don't have any of those unfair advantages. And that's okay. That's normal. That's not surprising. Everybody starts without those unfair advantages, including everyone who now has them. But what that means, if you're not playing with one of these unfair advantages in your favor, then you need to be charging a premium for your business to be profitable, sustainable, and support you in achieving your goals. It's not a choice, it's a necessity. And that's exactly what hybrid courses are great for doing. So let's take this idea of hybrid courses and premium prices and tie it back to your actual goals. When people come to me, they say, Danny, help me build online courses, help me sell online courses. They tend to have one of three goals to start with. They either want to earn an extra $2,000 per month in profit, or they want an extra $100,000 a year, want to attract and generate $1 million a year in revenue. Those are kind of the three categories that people come to me with. So I'm going to ask you guys now, what is yours? Or if it's a totally different one, that's fine too. Put it into the chat. But tell me which goal is compelling for you. Do you want an extra $2,000 in profit right now as your next goal? Do you want an extra $100,000 a year? Do you want $1 million in revenue? Okay, so you've got your goals, you've got your numbers in the chat. That's great. And here's the thing. Each of these goals is achievable, but depending on where you're starting, it might take longer to get from one to the other. Now, whichever of these targets you want to start with, this is where the business math of premium that we talked about really works in our favor. So let's do some calculations, keeping in mind that contribution profit is about a third of your retail price. So given that, and assuming we're talking about premium hybrid courses, so we're looking at a price of between $500 and $5,000 because, different industries and different content. So that means a contribution profit of about $166 to $1,666. And let's be very conservative. We'll just say 333, so on the low end. And let's also assume that 10 or 20% of those people will want to upgrade and get something more involved with you, maybe one-on-one coaching for 5 to 10x the price. So we'll say an extra $10,000 from 1 in 10 people. This is a basic template for the math. You can do your own math if you want that's more precise. Based on that, if you want to earn an extra $2,000 a month in profit, you need to make a whopping total of 1.5 sales a month, which is 18 sales a year. That's it. If you want an extra $100,000 in profit, you need to make 6.25 sales a month, which is 75 sales a year. If you want $1 million in revenue, you need 41.6 sales a month, which is 500 sales a year. So now I'm going to ask you a question. Does this feel doable with these numbers? Put the word doable into the chat if you're like, yeah, 18 sales a year, I can do that. That shouldn't be too hard. 75 sales a year for these numbers, that should be totally fine. Awesome. I'm seeing a lot of people saying, yeah, sounds very doable. Absolutely. Okay. So write that sales target down because that's going to be your North Star, at least until you work out the more precise math for your specific situation. So now we've talked about why it's important for you to charge a premium, like it's important for you and your business. Now let's talk about why it's also important for your students. And it really is important for your students that it be premium as well. And this might surprise you, especially with all the economic uncertainty that we keep hearing about going on in the news. I mean, inflation is high, interest rates keep rising, we're still reeling from shocks to the supply chain, political instability raises the stakes on everything, and most economists seem to agree that a recession is right around the corner. Although, they've been wrong about that for a while, but eventually they'll be right. But all of that actually makes it even more so the case that your customers want to buy a premium course from you, which sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? But let's talk about why. To understand what's really going on here, we have to talk about the different kinds of online courses that people buy. And there are 3 kinds of online courses, 3 categories, if you will. The first is entertainment or edutainment. It's courses that people take essentially because they think it's going to be fun, right? If I go on to Wondery and I sign up for a course on the history of jazz guitar, I'm not doing that because I urgently need to know how to, anything relating to jazz guitar because I need this information for something in my job or my work, right? I'm taking it because I'm presumably interested in the history of jazz guitar and I think it's going to be fun, right? That's one kind of course. And we're not talking about that kind of course. That's not a shortcut to anything, right? That's just entertainment. Second kind of course is professional development. That's a kind of course that people take essentially because someone told them they have to. It could be their HR department, it could be the government, it could be a regulation, it could be their boss, but they're taking a course because they have to. Now, when people are worried about their wallets, as many people are right now, spending tends to get cut on the first 2 courses because they're a luxury, they're optional, right? We don't spend as much money on entertainment or edutainment, and companies tend to cut budgets on professional development. But there's a third kind of course. A shortcut, right? People want to achieve whatever outcome they care about, and they want to do it in less time, at less cost, and with less risk of failure. And the more of a shortcut it is, the more valuable the course becomes. And the more careful you feel about your finances, the more important the goal is to you, the more you want to believe that this is actually going to help me. So if you think, I don't think this is going to work for me, I might try it, I might not be successful, you're not going to spend the money. If you're like, this looks really good and solid, I can trust this outcome, that's what people are looking for. And that's what we're talking about here. And that value, by the way, is a function of 2 things. There's the substance of what your course will include and the results that it will create, but there's also the appearance of value, right? Your customers can't buy and then discover later that it's valuable because they're just not going to do that. They have to see right from the start. First impressions matter. I thought this meme was kind of cute, right? My sister is about to have a baby and my brother showed up at the hospital in a suit because first impressions matter. But they do. First impressions really do matter. In other words, the way you talk about what you're offering matters a lot. because otherwise you never get past square one. So now let's talk about that first impression. And it's a good litmus test for whether you really have a winning idea for your hybrid course and for AI to help you to build. Because if you can make it sound compelling in just a few sentences, you know you're onto something. So let's talk about finding that winning hybrid course idea and then using AI to do it all faster and more easily. And this is about more than just filling in the blank on my course is about, whatever it is, whatever the topic is. It isn't just about the topic of your course, it's broader than that. And you know that you've got it right when it is clear and compelling to other people. So there are 5 ingredients to a winning hybrid course idea. And the first one is the topic, right? We're talking about the high-level topic. This is what is your course about in 2 to 3 words? And I'm going to invite you, you can drop into the chat, what is your course about in just 2 to 3 words? What's the topic? And this should be the easy part, right? Because, we all know what our subject area is. We just have to remember that the more of a shortcut it is, the more valuable the course becomes. Now, here's the trick. Instead of starting with the words, well, students will learn about fill in the blank, you want to change it to students will learn to fill in the blank. It's not about a topic, it's to create an outcome, to be able to do something. Now, sometimes the answer is obvious, right? You can easily make a list of topics that you can teach about. But sometimes it's harder. Maybe you're feeling a little creatively blocked. And sometimes you're just too close to things to be able to see clearly. And AI can help with this too, as a thought and brainstorming partner. So you can ask a question along the lines of what we did earlier today. I'm an expert on fill in the blank. What are 10 different course topics that I could teach that people would be willing to pay a premium to learn? Now, not all of the ideas will be good. And of course, you're going to be able to perfectly assess which are good and which aren't, because this is your expertise. But this can speed up your thinking dramatically and also find blind spots that you might be missing. So let's do this for real. And you have 2 options. If you have a ChatGPT account, then ask it the questions and see what it returns and paste whatever answers look good to you into the chat here. If you don't have a ChatGPT account for whatever reason, just use your brain as ChatGPT to come up with some ideas. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that. Use either ChatGPT or your brain and figure out what are a bunch of different course topics that you could teach based on your expertise that people would pay a premium for. What your course could be about. And the key with that list of options is not to overthink it. Don't agonize about which one to go with and is it exactly the right one? I have to spend months or years in analysis paralysis. You just want to pick one. But I will give you a 4-step framework for making that choice. So the first is just list out the different topic ideas that you're considering. You've already got that. Second, you're going to score each of these ideas on a scale of 1 to 10 for how easy it would be for you to reach people who want this, right? So 10 means I've already got lots of people like this in my network, very easy for me to reach. I have a big email list. 1 is I don't even know where I would begin to reach these people. I'm going to give you a couple minutes to do that scoring right now. For however many ideas you're considering, scale of 1 to 10, how easy it would be for you to reach people who want this. Now you're going to score them again on another dimension. You're going to give them another score, this time for how willing and able those people would be to pay. So if they're very willing, they have the resources, they're able to pay, etc., they would get a 10. If they're broke and don't think it's worth anything, they would get a 1. So again, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to create a second score for any of the topics that you're considering.